In terms of leading creative work, there are several things that a leader needs to be aware of and take into account. One is the nature of the work. When you are leading creative people, they might be artists, the cultural sphere, but they might be also in advertising, wherever. But if the point with the work, the outcome is some kind of creative output, then the leader has to understand. A leader does not have to be an artist or a creative worker, him or herself, but he or she needs to understand the content and the process of that creative work. It's quite a lot the same as say, if you are a conductor, you need to be a good musician. You don't have to be the best musician, otherwise things are wrong if the best musician is actually leading the orchestra and not playing anything. Or a theater director needs to understand acting. An ice hockey team coach needs to understand how players play and what constitutes a good game. But it's sort of understanding the fundamental essence of the creative work is important. But then the leader needs to let the creative people and let the competence shine, so to say. And how is that possible? That's an intriguing question. One thing is to try really to get different opinions, enhance the discussion, the dialogue. So oftentimes there are people who are more quiet, but they might have very good views. So a leader needs to try to enable all sorts of views, diverse viewpoints come out in the open. And more than that, it's not necessarily the best idea that comes out, but it's sort of facilitating the dialogue so that as an outcome of the collective discussion, dialogue and work, something new arises, maybe something more creative than was thought beforehand. What is important is not to destroy the discussion, the dialogue, not to be imposing, say, deadlines too soon, depending on the scope of the project, of the task that is at hand. Professor Henrik Herlau at Copenhagen Business School makes a distinction between a project and a project, and he calls a project something that you get a task, you have an assignment, and before you even enter the project phase, if usually the project would be sort of trying to synthesize everything, making deadlines, doing Excel sheets, making sure that okay, people know what they're doing. Before that, in order to really create some a good outcome, a good solution, it requires something that Henrik Herlau calls a project. And a project is where you open up the discussion. It's sort of an outward going process where you generate different ideas, you enrich the dialogue, you take in external people, try to make it as rich as possible, not to restrict anything, not to say that, oh, that was a bad idea, but sort of open up and facilitate that process. Because as he says, Henrik Herlau, the more time you give to this the project phase, the richer, the better will be the solution. And once you arrive at the solution, okay, now we know, now we got it, then comes the project phase. And then a leader's task is to make sure that either he or she himself or herself or somebody else takes the sort of project leadership, making sure that things go smoothly, it is well structured, that people have the resources, and that you deliver on time. So leading creative work requires an understanding of, okay, where, in what phase is the creative input most needed, and how to facilitate that. And then once you know that, okay, we have a production, we have maybe a deadline, then making sure that it is delivered on time and in the format that is needed.